Hi all, Steve here from No Barriers Personal Training, just following up from yesterday. Welcome to the watch party here, No Barriers Personal Training in the beautiful sunny Hamilton Waikato. That's in North Island, New Zealand if you're overseas. Just following up from yesterday, what I'd like to do is first acknowledge the firefighters over in Australia, our wonderful neighbours there, Anzac neighbours over there, just wish them some thoughts of support, as well as the fires in California, same over there, just the people all involved, doing a great job. Just want to acknowledge that first. What I want to tell you about what's going on here is fitness is becoming an all costs thing, and I just wanted to talk a bit about how we've got so much pain in society when it comes to exercise, and in general, the research shows there's actually 80% of people in pain and only 20% actually having a pleasurable life, which is pretty outstanding, not in a good way. And what we do here is, I'm a personal trainer, I've got 22 years of experience. I'll tell you right now, I'm not a physiotherapist, I'm just the link in the chain. The whole business, it's around breaking down the barriers between the health professionals. I have a physiotherapist upstairs, her name's Nikki Nunn, and it's the back clinic, and they're just a wonderful support service, and we both swallow our pride, and we learn from each other. It's a constant upskilling. My mentor was a physiotherapist over in Canada by the name of Ralph Manning. Unfortunately didn't pass away a few years ago, but I learned a lot from him. I've also worked with orthopedic surgeons and some really good other health professionals, dietitian by the name of Nancy Fong over in Canada, IOC certified as well. So just being able to work with some amazing people, and just happy to pass their knowledge on and get rid of some of this pain that's in the society. The first thing I wanted to talk about was fibromyalgia. That's a big one, becoming pretty prevalent in society these days with the extra stress levels that we're at. Not too long ago, it wasn't even recognised. It's basically large inflammation in the joints and causes a lot of pain and fatigue. And I've trained quite a few clients with it, and I have two right now with me. One's been with me for 5 years, and we've managed to give her a better quality of life, included in the physiotherapy. And I would always recommend that first, because they've got years and years of university study. I'm just a link in the chain a little bit further down, but my exercise prescription is strong and my anatomy is strong, but it's a constant learning process, and yes, there is some trial and error. So I just wanted to give us some insight on some of the clients that we have here and some of the issues that are really, really prevalent in New Zealand society, and probably world society actually. So the fibromyalgia, the big thing is the breathing. We have a guy by the name of Wayne Milicic who did 10 years of research in the form of why we're in so much pain. Diaphragmatic breathing was one of the things he talked about, and how getting back to being a child and using child movements and child breathing. If you have a child and you're changing a nappy, if you watch when you change a nappy, they will blow their belly out. They won't suck their belly in. They naturally breathe that way, and we've stopped breathing that way, so we're causing ourselves pain there. We're not turning well. And we're taught to suck in our belly and pull our shoulders back, and it's just not working. It's causing us more pain. So when it comes to fibro, we always find that with my clientele is we're doing their sessions later on in the day because of the fatigue levels are really high in the morning, and the inflammation levels are quite high as well. Obviously, there's diet included in that, but I would always recommend referring on to a dietitian, and I always do, because I've only got the basics of nutrition, and that's, I'm about referring on and swallowing my pride. Anyway, so when it comes to fibromyalgia, it's duration. That's the big thing. We've got to keep it short. Sessions are about a maximum of 30 to 40 minutes long. If someone with fibromyalgia is in pain, then we've got to, and this goes for everybody actually, we've got to change that fight for flight response, which is, it's a defense mechanism for our body that it uses when it's, when it defends itself, and it causes a lot of tension and pain. So we want to turn that down and eventually turn that off at a certain point. So by using less reps, so if you're walking 10 minutes, short bouts of 10 minutes rather than long bouts of half an hour, 30, 40 minutes to start off with, and you can just build that up. And then one thing about the diaphragmatic breathing too is it actually helps that anxiety and stress come down, and that tension that you get from not breathing properly. So the weight training side of things, we keep our reps around 4 to 5 repetitions, usually a maximum of 2 to 3 sets we would do. Pain is a serious thing. It's not, when we work out with someone in fibre, it's not about having the burn. It's about, we want that fatigue level between 3 to 4 out of 10 and no more. Some people can handle a bit more than that, but people with fibre just won't handle it. They won't handle that at all. Empathy is strong. It has to be strong. You have to just, it's not about judging. It's about giving them empathy and watching their body language. And that goes for yourself. Don't beat yourself up. It's a condition, and it's not your fault. So you just get past that now, and think about the positive things you can do in your life if you get it sorted. So that's what when I talk about fibromyalgia. Now the other things I want to focus on is there's the neck, the low back, the knee, and the shoulders. So with the neck, I'm probably going to stand up pretty soon. I'm not really much for sitting too long. I don't think a trainer should do that too often. But anyway, the neck issues, we have a lot of people with neck issues. They have fractures in their necks, they have fusions in their necks. What we get a lot of now is the what we call the trapezius muscle, which is the you'll see when people shrug, that trap, that upper trap is the one that's it's turned on all the time, and we need to turn that off because it does cause a lot of tension and pain. And in people's jobs these days, a lot of rounding of the shoulders, and then that becomes a tightness in the neck, sore in the neck. So when it comes to neck issues, you want to try and keep your neck supported as much as you can, or in a neutral position, or just a straight position. When you're on your belly or on your back, your neck should be supported. One of the exercises that I do with my clients, because there are some apparatus that like things like trap bars and stuff like that that will force your shoulders down, but they're not bad, but it's not going to change the pattern. We have to change that pattern so the traps turn off. So one of the simple movements that we do, I like to call it a Y and a U. It's probably a sideways U, more than a U. So I'll just take you through that quickly. So the Y and the U is arms above the head, and we go into what we call a protraction of the shoulders. Shoulders up. There's the Y. Shoulders down. There's the U. And we go over the top once again. Shoulders up. Shoulders down. Now, if you've had neck issues, or you've got fractures in your neck and so forth, having your arms above your head for too long is going to cause that, once again, that pain response, that fight for flight. So even 2 or 3 reps will be fine. And what it does, if you see from the back here, you get those latissimus dorsi, those big muscles turned on, and those upper traps turned off, like so. That's one of the simple things we do with the neck. With our clients, and something you can do during the day. Get up off if you're at a desk job, get up and just do some Y and U's. And by one of the simple things we also do too is if you watch when I go into that U, my hands are facing upwards. We call that a That's a pronated, and that's a supinated, or just supinated grip. That, if you watch my shoulders, they're up. If I turn my hands around, pretty much automatically go down, shoulders go down. So it takes that tension off the traps. It's the lower traps we want, which are closer to the mid-back. We want those stronger. We have to keep the upper traps strong, but not overworked. You're going to see athletes now, they're not going to be as pronounced through the traps because we're getting serious problems. What we can have is a weakness in the mid-spine, and we can also have real problems in the lower back by having overworked traps as well. So there are problems further ahead as well by overworking those areas, and we see it every time. We see it constantly. Exercises to avoid all the time, not or avoid completely, is shoulder shrugs. Too often, if you're doing shoulder shrugs with weight, you're just turning those traps on, and they're just going to stay on all the time. So it's balancing that out, keeping them strong, but not overworking them. So when it comes to traps, don't overwork them. Just keep them strong, but don't overwork them. And there's that Y and U, just a simple exercise you can do to just to relieve that stress a bit. Okay, so we're going to shift into the low back. Well, this is the back clinic upstairs is physiotherapy. It specialises in low back, and it's probably primarily most of the injuries we cover. What we have quite often is the hamstrings contracting before the gluteus. It's a bit of it's a bit deadly. You need to have the gluteus firing before the hamstring, otherwise your lower back, your lumbar spine will overwork, and it will cause you pain, guaranteed. So one of the things we do down here is we get those gluteus going with your butt muscles. If you bring in normal information. So that's one of the things we see, lumbar spine overworking from that. What we have from there is the thoracic spine gets weaker. We get overworking the lumbar spine, thoracic spine gets weaker. Thoracic spine being the mid-spine area, that needs to be super strong because that's part of the core of the body, along with the gluteus, the rectus abdominis through the front of the belly, the transverse to the lower belly, into the internal obliques as well. So the core doesn't involve just the belly, it involves right up into the centre of the back. A lot of people don't realise that. So one of the things we need to avoid a lot of, and once we've got away from just stopping doing things, so what that actually does, it turns that fight for flight on early. So we just do less of. Less of what we call hip flexion, which is when your knees are coming up into your belly, into your pelvis, into your spine, under compression. For someone with lower back concerns, too much of that, it's going to cause a problem. So if you were doing a squat, for example, coming up, if you see that, when I'm going down, that's hip flexion and compression. So if I'm doing hundreds and hundreds of squats, or lots of squats, and I've got a lower back issue, I'm just going to make it worse. The other thing is rotation. Too much twisting or rotation is going to cause a problem with lower back. It's going to cause pain. Now, one of the things we've changed is a bit with our turning, and we have to look back to what a child does as well. I've got a 3-year-old and I watch her constantly. And when we turn, we tend to turn with our lumbar spine. Now, the lumbar spine shouldn't turn. It should stay pretty much still because the shear force on the disc will cause pain. We should be turning from the thoracic mid-spine into the cervical spine. So the turning pattern would be, if you watch your child, if you've got a young child, if you see them standing, they'll turn from their hip, their chest will be a little bit lifted, and that gets that thoracic locked on, and then they're turning like this. Whereas we tend to turn our neck, put stress on it, or just turn like that, and throughout the day, we're doing that a few times, we're going to have problems. So that turning pattern, it's just like having that. It's just like a golf swing, bringing that foot around, bringing the hip around. If you watch from the side there, you'll see, and from the back, you'll see that my turning pattern is all from my thoracic spine into my cervical spine. And like I said, you're looking at a child, they're the best movers. They'll do it automatically without even thinking. Start watching them. They're amazing. They're amazing to watch. And this is part of the research that Wayne Milicic has done. 10 years of research. He's a physiotherapist with 30, 40 years experience. Put himself in a position of pain so he could understand what was going on, what was going wrong. We go into the knee. Now I've had an ACL repaired about 6 or 7 years ago, so I've had a little bit of personal experience with this, but I've also trained a lot of people with knee injuries. Elite athletes, everyday recreational athletes, everyday people, trying to get back to work, trying to get back to life with the normal mobility. So one of the big things with the knee is we hear quite a bit if you go to gyms and so forth, and I probably would have said the same thing 10, 15 years ago as well. But I've been lucky I've been in this business now for about 22 years, since 1997, and I learned pretty early from physiotherapists and other health professionals that when your knee is not fully extended, it's not going to be stabilised. So there's a muscle we call here, it's called a VMO. You can see it there on the inside of the vastus medialis oblique, we'll just say. That is actually what it's called. So if we're exercising and we've got poor knees, we need to lock that knee out. And you've been told for years, don't lock your knees, don't lock your knees. Told all the gym, don't lock your knees. If you've got a knee issue and you're not locking the knee out, you're not going to get that strength in the VMO. It's not going to fire. And what that VMO will do is, part of its function is to extend the knee. Yeah, definitely. And then it's to keep it out as well. So if your VMO is not strong, you're going to get this. Yeah, that compromise in the stability, you'll get that knee turning inwards, and that can cause all kinds of injuries. And we get, there's a bushwalk about 20 minutes from here called the Hakramatas, and people coming down the Hakramatas with poor glute firing, poor knee strength. We're getting lots of injuries from that, mostly coming downhill because of that deceleration and that lack of glute strength and VMO strength. One of the things that my mentor taught me, Ralph, for knee injuries, I'll just show you a little exercise that he showed me, and I use it for my clients, and I modify it and I do different exercises with it. I'll just grab a box here, just give me a second. So you've got a box or a step, you're standing on it, lock those knees out, and you're going to what we call dorsiflex. So you're going to bring your toes towards your shins, like that. You put it up against the wall, you've got a bit of support with the wall, and less worry about balance. You can also do it just holding on to something in front of you, preferably on the ground, and keeping those knees locked. What happens is your VMO is firing, which connects your patella tendon, and then the tibia, say the shin area. It all gets strengthened through there, and it does a great job of keeping that knee stable. Not alone, but it's a great exercise that you can do at home or anywhere, and it can be done daily as well. I do them about 3 or 4 times a week. I haven't had any problems with my knees since, along with the other exercises, of course. So that's that's a really good simple exercise you can do for those knee tendons. Probably a higher rep to things like 15 to 20 repetitions, because you want that endurance as well. Even simple things like if you're, you want that VMO to fire more when you're standing, stand up straight, lock those knees out during the day, and it just builds that endurance and that VMO a little bit. And there's just things that I've learned from physiotherapists and passed on, and because I understand the anatomy and the anatomy function, then I can pass those on to you. Alright, so then what we're going to do, we're going to go into the shoulders. Now the shoulders are the most mobile joint in the body, more susceptible to injury than anywhere else. We've probably got more rotator cuff injuries than anything else in this wonderful city of Hamilton of ours. A lot of it is avoidable. High intensity programs without progressive exercises, without building the rotator cuff up. The big thing with the rotator cuff is if your rotator cuff is weak, your shoulders are weak. You can have strong deltoids, you can have strong upper shoulder muscles, but if that rotator cuff doesn't have the stabilization, you've got weak shoulders, plain and simple. Think of it as a band that wraps around the shoulder girdle and holds everything together, because that's what it does. And the movements of the shoulder, you've got internal rotation, external rotation. You've got flexion of the shoulder, extension of the shoulder, and you've also got what we call abduction, which is out to the side. So it's a lot of movements that the shoulder is responsible for. And the one that we commonly see, and if you talk to orthos, they'll probably tell you this, what we call the supraspinatus. It's the one that controls that internal rotation, or that internal rotation of the shoulder. And because we're slouching so much, sitting down on our jobs, not all of us, guys like builders, crouching over their work all the time, always in that rounded posture, they just overwork in there constantly, and eventually they'll go. So it's really important to get those rotator cuffs really, really strong. We do a lot of rotator cuff work here. I include it in a lot of exercises that I do for that reason. I'll just take you through an exercise, two different exercises actually. One for the lower back, as well as the core, and a bit of gluteus, and then one for the core and the rotator cuff. So just simple, don't need any equipment. Hope everybody can see it. Sideways there. Yeah. So the first one is, lift your bum up. Take your knees out a little bit. Don't take them too far, because you don't want that rotation. Otherwise you're not going to get into that deeper gluteus. Up and out. Now if you've got a lumbar problem, lower back problem, that, if you can see that there, I've got what we call hyperextension or lumbar extension. So I've got this big arch in my back. If you've got lumbar problems, you have to have it flat, and that goes for squats and things like that. They need to be more upright. So there for lumbar. When we go into the shoulder, we can add the core, and we can add an external rotation to that. So if we go, once again, into your back bridge, if you lift up, tuck that elbow in, and as you come up, you bring that arm out, only go to the point where the elbow stays tucked in, and you come back down, flex that wrist a bit, keep it flexed, more action to the rotator cuff area there, like so. So once again, if you've got lumbar issues, lower back issues, you're not going to be up here, you're going to be here. And we're constantly looking out for that, because we've got so many clients with lower back problems. So there's just a little bit of feedback on The injuries that we see, it's just simple exercise, simple things you can do. Obviously we do personal training, I do personal training here. My sessions are 40 minutes long, and I also do online sessions too, so you can do it from your own home, you can do it from overseas. It's $80 a month for two Skype sessions plus follow-up, plus your own personalised program. I don't do generic programs, I do everything that's individual for that person because they have different needs, and trial and error, there's similarities in some programs, but they are individual, and we're constantly following up with our clients. So that's about it. So hopefully it'll give you some help. I've got to get better at this technical stuff, and I will, and I can post more stuff as I get stronger with it. Thanks for your time. I hope everybody's got something out of this. Any little bit would be good, because we're here to help, and we don't want this much pain in the world anymore. We want everybody to be feeling good and having a quality of life. That's what we're all about. We're about quality of life. It's not just a cosmetic thing, it's about having that quality of life. All right, cheers very much from Hamilton, New Zealand. See you later.